welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, today we are actually following the PK story. We've been following it for the whole week or more than a week also, the engagement with the Congress party, and then, of course, the famous breakup that happened last evening when both PK and the Congress politely decided to part ways. What went wrong? Because it's not as if, PK was coming up with some plan that would have taken the Congress by surprise. He'd given them a plan 2 years ago when he'd engaged with them on an earlier occasion. He had said things like he had raised questions about the leadership or the narrative about the Gandhis not being able to win elections. All that he had said he'd been saying it all along. He had IPAC with him. When they engaged him, they knew that there was IPAC that was dealing with TRS, TMC, DMK, and other YSRCP. So what went wrong? Why did the Congress suddenly decided to disengage? We are told PK wanted control. Some people are saying he didn't want Rahul to lead the party. The Congress is saying that we're told the Congress was keen on engaging him because they would have been given a fall guy in case things went wrong. And if things went right, then of course it's a win-win for the Congress. To discuss who gains and who loses from all this is something that we're going to be discussing today, and a little bit of the inside analysis as to what went wrong. Joining me on the show is Rashid Kidbai. He's, of course, someone who knows all things that happened in the Congress, the inside stories. He's the author of 24 Akbar Road. Sanjay Jha, suspended Congress leader. Someone who was in the dock for saying all the things that I think what PK said, Sanjay and the group of G23 have been saying all along also. So it'll be interesting to know his take on what's happening. Sandeep Ghosh, political commentator, op-ed writer, and PK Nambiar, he's also a political commentator. Rashid, the inside take, what went wrong? I have also a suggestion that I want to put forward. I think the focus of the two was different. The Congress wanted a revival of the Congress beginning from the state levels, while PK wanted a revival of the UPA, which doesn't necessarily mean Congress revival. That's why he kept his links with all the other allies also. He wanted the Congress to contest just the right amount of seats to push the UPA through, but it not necessarily in the right interest of the Congress. Is that correct?
Yes, Priya. First of all, just one clarification from my side, in the sense I'm not that kind of insider that you described me, because the political parties they're supposed to behave on some kind of logical traction, and in this case, logic has become a casualty, because the whole idea, as you have said, it is not that PK's ideology or PK's association with IPAC, visible or invisible, was an issue, because an offer has been made. He didn't accept whatever offer it was. That means there was no problem on his, either of his kind of professional commitment or his ideology. So this is one thing that we have to be born and more. Second thing, the organization was not in the picture. This was a private, arrangement initiative taken by the Gandhis to invite Prashant Kishore and have his presentation. CWC did not discuss it, and not for the first time. This was the third engagement with Prashant Kishore. Once it happened in Uttar Pradesh, 2017, throughout 2021, and now. So PK was looking at it as if it's, the Gandhis want to push reforms, and he had made a presentation. It was for the Gandhis to get party on board. Chaukidar Chor Hai was a slogan coined by Rahul Gandhi. Was it discussed in CWC or the 18 party forum? And later on, after 2019, Rahul was very bitter that, party did not back him. So we know that the case I'm making is Gandhis if they want, they can do it. This I am saying it is a very tactical way. First, there was a Congress and Sonia Gandhi and Prashant Kishore meeting, etc. And then when the presentation was made, the whole party was brought. And Congress is allergic to change. And that's how it happened. And Sonia Gandhi knew it. And the last thing, the matter, it was, kind of abruptly called off on Twitter. If PK was demanding 4 things, I can imagine him being very ambitious or so. He could have been, called again on that one-on-one meeting or with a small group and told that, look, these are the 4 things that you are asking. Let's start with these 2 things. It didn't happen. So I am saying that this is who is the biggest loser. To my mind, it is Indian National Congress Party.
And you've been very vocal, and you've also been saying on record, I heard you say that Rahul Gandhi really needs to go. PK also probably said this, but PK was not so categorical as you were. What next? Where do you see things going?
Well, Priya, extending what Rashid said, and I think Rashid has hit the nail on the head. The truth is that the Congress party is reluctant to change. It has perhaps told itself that, on a natural anti-incumbency, we will return to power. Now, frankly speaking, in my opinion, that's an absurd, atrocious, and a ridiculous proposition to survive in politics. The Congress today doesn't face an existential crisis. It faces potential extinction. Let us not try and beat about the bush anymore. If you look at the AAP's performance in the Assam local municipal corporation results, it is number 2 to BJP. The Congress is number 3. So, things are happening rather quickly, and politics is not static. The Congress, for some strange reason, and I have been vocal about it for a couple of years. So when I say I told you so, I say it with a lot of excruciating pain here, because some of us have seen this happening for a while. The writing has been on the wall, and the party doesn't get it. So I do agree with Rashid here that the loser obviously is the Congress. And the answers are, frankly speaking, not rocket science. One is fix your leadership. Second is, make your organizational reform robust. The third will be your communication has to be with everyone. I have told Rahul this in person, and I'll tell you this on your show, that you should have actually gone back to do another program at times now after that first interview failed. Go and erase the memory of a poor performance. Talk to NDTV, go to CNN, go to Aaj Tak, go to anyone you have to. The media is not hostile. You engage with the media. I'm a believer in a democracy where if I was a Democrat, I would spend a lot of my time actually on Fox News. That's how politics needs to be played. And I think the party hasn't got it. The last point is ideological. The Congress needs to be very clear. The BJP is playing, and with due respect to I doing whatever PKD and Sandeep say because they belong to the other side of the fence, India is seeing a dangerous escalation of communal hate. Okay? Trust me, the BJP is taking the country down a rabbit hole. At some point, we'll have a debate on your show, maybe a few years down the line. And I promise you this, if the country continues the way it is doing, the Indian democracy, secularism, constitution will be a joke. And everybody will pay. Huh? Let me tell you, if anybody believes here that we are on the right side of the political establishment and therefore we are okay, the country, when it goes down, it takes everybody down with it.
That debate we'll do later. Yeah.
So my last line. In sticking with Rahul Gandhi as a leader and refusing to acknowledge that Prashant Kishore could have been a positive disruptor to the Congress, a party which is facing a wipeout, I think the Congress has done itself, its cadres and its voters a great disservice.
But you're hired as a consultant. You go and tell the person who's hiring you that you have to go. So is that a great recruitment strategy? It may be the truth.
It's fine. When you are negotiating and if things don't fall in place, you don't get an understanding. Asking somebody to go, I think that's good, rather than engaging something and then later on having a negative fallout. So I don't see that as a problem. Now coming to this Congress bit, which Rashid and Sanjay both alluded to, who is the Congress? Okay, if we are a Congress, we are essentially talking of the 3 members of the family. And if the 3 members really, as Rashid says, wanted to bring, like when did Mamata Banerjee consult her working committee or anybody larger party when Abhishek Banerjee wanted to induct Prashant Kishore? She didn't. And then she used him to the extent she needed to. And anyway, so subsequently, we know what happened after Goa. Now, similarly, if Sonia Gandhi really wanted to, she could have. But we must ask why she couldn't. I think there is some dissonance within the triumvirate themselves. And why things were later on pushed down to a committee and a second committee, etc., is to get some kind of a buy-in and thereby, get the person within the family to agree or accept him. If she did not find that resistance, if there was unanimity between the 3 of them, then I agree with Rashid. All that they would have done, like everything else, they would have brought Prashant Kishore one day and said, hey, he's the guy who's going to run the show from now on. And all the other people, as we have seen in G23, they would fall in line. Nobody really they'll grumble, they'll mumble, but ultimately they would have fallen in line. So the problem lies, I think, there. and they could not come to an, and therefore, like Rashid and me on a show yesterday, I may be reading too much into the tea leaves. The fact that Randeep Surjewala is the one who tweeted and who communicated tells you from where the message was coming.
I totally agree with you what you said. In fact, that was going to be my question to PKD Nambiar. I subscribe to this theory also. And let's face it, it's the team Rahul really that has been objecting. In fact, when the TRS tie-up also happened, it was Manikam Tagore who was the tweeted first saying being friends with the enemy is not good strategy or something to that effect. Rahul Gandhi has been missing from all the meetings except for the first meeting. So is this Rahul's in fact first big win against the old guard, because he's always been saying Sonia doesn't let me function, etc., etc. Was Rahul the stumbling block? PKD, have you heard anything of this?
Yeah, even if it is Rahul is winning against whom, winning for what? So I think the question is that he's losing. He has been one of the in the Indian political history, is one of the greatest loser so far. And he's even lost today. It is not because of the Prashant Kishore. Let me tell you that Prashant Kishore do not have any magic band. If he had a magic band in UP elections, at least Congress could have done much better. So the performance of UP was very bad. If you really look at...
But in UP, Prashant wanted Priyanka to be the CM face. When that didn't happen, so you can't blame entire UP on him.
No, I think what we are making one of the biggest mistake, or one of the great achievement of Prashant Kishore today, is that he is doing his marketing and PR extremely well. And on the other side, a Congress, for an example, has been always been, as like Sanjay ji said, that we've always been lacking in the communication. Both from internal and external communication have been pretty bad. So what Prashant Kishore did, he did 1 or 2 or 3 rounds of meeting. He did a business with them. I once again reiterate that he did a business with them in UP. Once he found that there is a potential further business, there may be even also a possibility for him to play a major role in politics. So he opted to go to Congress once again. Look at that, he created an enormous pressure. He gave interviews to all the who's who of who matters in the opinion making in India. And he created that kind of a situation for Congress that Congress needs to consult him. He went and gave a presentation, and he is expecting a Congress party, no matter what, whether it is an old party, whether it is too much of in shambles, they have a major political leadership crisis. In fact, yesterday, Mr. Chavan, Prithviraj Chavan was talking that the Congress is going through an existential crisis. So but is that the solution is about a political strategist who's an outside consultant who comes and say that, yes, anybody can show you the mirror. And for Congress, even Sanjay Jha has been showing the mirror to the Congress what it is. You don't require an external consultant to come and tell. Sanjay Jha, at least to me, must have told 100 times, may have tweeted about 1,000 times saying that the main problem is the leadership crisis. And it starts with Rahul Gandhi. Replace Rahul Gandhi, bring somebody else. So the reform in any political party needs to come within. See, political parties are always about leadership. And Congress has got enormous number of leaders, both in terms of at the national level, even though some people may have gone away from the party because of the top man. So I think the reform cannot happen hiring a external strategist or a consultant. And please note that he has been doing business with everybody. And if you really look at the success rate, it's all about just like a created bubble. All the success rate.
I'm going to take a break because all this is not breaking news. You knew that Prashant Kishore was doing business with everybody else. You knew his success rate. You knew he's an outsider. That's a conversation you should have had before engaging him, not breaking news post-engagement.
That is precisely where the Congress made a mistake. Imagine, even if there is a discussion is taking place, why it should be how many slides presentation? It is 500 slides, 600 slides. Today the meeting is happening. It's all breaking news. It should have been happening behind the doors. Nobody should be knowing. If at all, if they are engaging a consultant, why should the whole world should be knowing it? It should be a private discussion between the leadership of two companies or two
I think
people. or two
Rashid had a good point as to why the headlines were being made. At least it distracted, gave the Congress some other headlines than just the failures of the
It
leadership.
was actually the PR exercise. It was a PR exercise of Prashant Kishore. He wanted to say that either me or nobody can save the Congress. So he succeeded in that. That's it.
I think it is Mr. PKD Namdar is within his rights to make his opinion, but the factual accuracy is altogether very different. How did we, whether me, you, Sandeep, PKD, Sanjay, how did we get to know that Prashant Kishore is having a conversation with the Congress party? It was Mr. K.C. Venugopal who came out and gave a bite, and a bite was also very telling that Prashant Kishore has made a presentation to revive the Congress and, contesting the 300, focusing on 370 seats, etc. So it is naive and rather, unilateral to say that, the leaks and everything was done by Prashant Kishore. It was the Congress which went ahead. And second thing, most importantly, Priya, it is not that offer was not made to Prashant Kishore. I can imagine Congress would have said, look, we have a problem in doing business with you. Fair enough. Political party has a right to say no to anybody, but they didn't do it. They made an offer. They made him they offered him to make a member of that empowered, group, which of course has a very, wide mandate. So, and then of course, Prashant Kishore felt that it is inadequate. So that's a different story. But I'm saying that Congress would not earn any brownie point by saying these things, because these things are not, are not factually correct. It was the Congress which had shown interest. I mean, Priya, me and you know that, getting access to 10 Janpat to Gandhis is not an easy thing. That too, quality hours spread over 3-4 days, 20 hours means a volume. What were you doing for the 20 hours? This could have been done in 5 minutes. Everyone knew that, PK's association with 5-pack that I keep repeating. So I am saying there is something, it's a clear case of afterthought.
Is it an afterthought or is it a thought postscript prompted by somebody else, Sanjay?
Well, Priya, the truth is, and I agree with what PKD and Sandeep have frankly spoken with earnestness, and there has not been the usual just a criticism of the Congress for the sake of it. I think the truth is that the Congress party is still in a stupor. And, we have to accept this one fact that Rahul Gandhi is surrounded by, a lot of people, I call them as political entrepreneurs, who are having their own personal agendas. And they are very, very inflexible to a robust change. Now, think about it, that if Prashant Kishore is trying to resurrect an organization, a political organization, Congress is very complex, Priya, I can tell you that. There are layers and layers and wheels and wheels. It beats the Indian bureaucracy, I'm telling you. It's incredible. It's a complex machine. It's full of regulatory and, internal bureaucratic cholesterol. So how do you run this party? You see, if you and I were Prashant Kishore, any one of us, and we were in his boots, and you want to make the party become a significant player in 2024, you need to have some freedom to operate. You can't be running, for example, if Sandeep was tomorrow the media advisor to the Congress, and instead of talking to Rahul or anybody else who's the Congress president, he has to go through a Randeep Surjewala and a media committee, he's never going to succeed. And please spare a little compassion for Prashant Kishore. I'm not trying to be his, his ambassador here, but he would not like to fail either. Already people say that he failed with the Congress in UP in 2017. And that experience probably tells him once bitten, twice shy. I don't think he wanted to kind of fail again. And the truth be said, Priya, the Congress can be resuscitated. The party still has karyakartas, it has a structure, it has people who are willing to fight for it. But you need to have a command where you can actually get the work done. And look at the joke of this empowered committee. It is again an conglomeration of the same old faces, same old committees. I have seen them do it in AICC gatherings, and they only gather dust. I've seen how they create those final, memorandums which are declared to the media. Ultimately, is there any follow-up? The answer is no. So I believe, bottom line, the Congress stands to lose here, because if you don't change, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, the only way out is an exit door, and you may not be able to come back into the national mainstream.
Sandeep, your take on this whole Prashant Kishore saga, final take.
My final take is one. I agree. Since Sanjay has been kind to me, I have to be kind to him. I think I agree with him in terms of the change. Now, even if the change, first of all, has to come from within, in the sense that there has to be the will and the drive. So even if somebody decides that, okay, bringing in a consultant is the solution, then that has to have the full backing of whosoever are the owners or drivers or promoters. If they are iffy, they are trying to do, within themselves, they have are not totally aligned, and they have various interest groups are putting pressure on them, then an external consultant would fail, and a sensible consultant would actually say thank you very much for your cup of tea and walk away, because he knows even his reputation, as Sanjay said, would be at stake, because he's walking into failure. But as far as Prashant Kishore is concerned, we have discussed earlier, whatever he has said and done to some extent defies logic. And I strongly believe that when Rashid writes another book, some 3 or 4 years later, he will write a book on how Prashant Kishore took the not only political parties, but also the media on a huge jamboree, because the way he grabs media attention and the way media makes him to be an absolute whiz kid who has this, to use Nambia's word, magic wand and everything, I think this highly grossly exaggerated. If all the success stories talked about him, if you really analyze them, his contribution, I'm not saying there was no contribution, would have been at best marginal or very limited, including, I tweeted this morning, West Bengal, anybody who knows West Bengal, Mamata Banerjee at the end of the day won because of she just replicated the CPIM model, what they used to do to win elections. Maybe Prashant Kishore gave some tactical inputs, etc., but you cannot attribute the victory to him. And it's the same way. And he overplays his card, due to which I think he would have eroded his credibility. On a lighter note, I'll say, seeing what had happened in Congress, I wouldn't be surprised if after 2014 elections, he told Mr. Modi, okay, now you have won, make me the BJP president while you run. And that otherwise, if he really contributed in that, why should Mr. Modi and Amit Shah totally dispense with him after 2014 if he was such a valuable resource? So we have to take him also with a pinch of salt.
No, I think Prashant Kishore is a resource who wants to be a leader, but the political parties only want him as a resource. They don't want him as a leader. So that's the problem. PKD, your final
What's
take.
the stakes to be a leader? What are his credentials to be a leader, Priya? Rahul Gandhi can claim to be a leader by virtue of his pedigree. Now, Prashant Kishore has not led anyone. So how can he claim to be a leader of India's oldest party? As all said and done, as Sanjay and everybody says, Congress is a huge machinery and got a huge legacy.
Do you want to answer that before I get in? PKD, was Prashant Kishore asking for too much, wanting a leadership stake?
No, I really don't think that was okay.
Sorry, go ahead, Sanjay, you take it, huh?
Okay, I don't think Sandeep Prashant had any illusions about what to expect from the Congress. I just believe that the Congress should have been smart here. He's focused on 2024 because he wants to play the larger game of alliances and nationwide Lok Sabha. And the Congress wanted him to also do the states. But truth be said, once you're on board, your inputs will be taken everywhere. So I think the Congress still operates in a straight-jacketed, old-fashioned way. I don't think Prashant had any intention or expectation of hoping to be the Congress president or anything remotely close to that.
But you agree, Rashid?
I think I just tell you what's being talked about at 24 Akbar, what is that you see there is a body of 150 people who control the party organization at various level. I'm saying next to Gandhis, and they said, "Agar change hoga, to hum change ho jayenge." That was the only thing that has led to this situation.
Yeah. As Sanjay said, waiting for anti-incumbency. PKD, your last take.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. The problem with the Congress is not. It's a very well-known fact for everybody, except maybe the Gandhis, or maybe that too limited to Rahul Gandhi and the Priyanka Gandhi. I believe that Sonia Gandhi had seen many ups and downs in her life, so she may be knowing the real problem. But at the end of the day, it is for her. The motherly love for her kids will be the first thing. I think that may be the one which is, जैसे कहते हैं ना कि पुत्र स्नेह ही है पूरा दुनिया का जो समस्या का जो main reason, महाभारत से लेके हर जगह. So that is really the challenge of Congress today. Unfortunately, Rahul Gandhi is not able to understand, even Priyanka Gandhi is not able to digest the fact that they are not fit for the politics. There is better leadership is required for Congress and all these reforms. And let me also tell you that before the 2024 election, there are 12 more elections, state elections are going to come. If Congress fails in all these 12 elections, where is the question of Congress coming back on 2024? Even in the worst scenario for a consultant or even a strategist to think that, okay, I will only focus the final game unless and until you don't reach the final game, you have to the quarterfinal and the semi-final, you will have to cross, then only you will reach the final. So in politics, the quarterfinal and final and each match is important. And unfortunately, the Congress, rather than looking within itself, rather than looking at to a solution that who could really lead the party, forget about winning an election, to make a real strong opposition. So I always say in politics, being in opposition is the best time to perform. If you are not able to perform as a main opposition party, whether it is in state, whether it is in a district or in the national level, no matter what you do, taking the mighty Narendra Modi is a distant dream. Please note, at the cost of Congress, what Congress is doing the wrong is that a large number of regional players and the players like Aam Aadmi Party, which I definitely do have a big question on their integrity towards the
vacuum is being filled up by the
others. So you look at Arvind Kejriwal, where all is he going? Wherever the Congress is failing, he is trying to take the place of that. I think
I'm totally out of time, but I totally agree with what PKD has said. I think the first rule of leadership is to actually show up and say you're the Congress president, say you're there for the power. Don't say I hate power, because otherwise, why are you there in politics? At least give the right optics physically and
the shadow leadership. Shadow leadership is what is happening right now. Sonia Gandhi is just a face. The real leadership lies with Rahul Gandhi and the Priyanka Gandhi, and it's the same culture that of 4 or 5 people who do not have any base at the national level. You speak good Hindi and English is not going to fetch you votes. You need to be on the ground.
Get you on TV debates like this, but it won't get you your votes.
Absolutely.
But on that note, thank you so much for this conversation. And I'm afraid we'll have a whole lot more of this introspection going on, because I don't see the Congress changing anytime soon. But that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.